I straightened my skirt and took a deep breath before pushing open the heavy oak door to Ethan's new office. The sign that read, Ethan Perry, President, still gleamed, fresh and new. Ethan looked up briefly from his computer. His expression tense. Anna, I'm really busy. What is it? He said without lifting his gaze. I managed a smile. The Henderson account files are ready for you to review. And the staff meeting starts in 10 minutes. He waved me off dismissively. Cancel it. I have more important things to do. But Ethan, the team has been working all week to prepare for this meeting. They're counting on you to be there. I insisted. He shot me a sharp look. Eyes still fixed on the screen. Cancel it. That's an order, not a request. Suppressing my frustration, I nodded quickly and left the room. As I shut the door, I caught a glimpse of Ethan in the window's reflection, already absorbed in his work, oblivious to the hurt I felt. Standing in the hallway, I leaned against the wall, trying to steady my racing heart. This wasn't the Ethan I had married. The man I once loved had been passionate about his work and deeply cared for his team. Now, with his new title, it seemed like he was letting it all go to his head. Everything all right, Anna? Richard, Ethan's father, appeared, watching me with concern. Despite being retired, he still came to the office often. I straightened up, forcing a smile. Of course, it's just a hectic morning. How about you, Richard? He studied me closely. I'm fine, but you don't look all right. What's Ethan done this time? I hesitated, torn between my loyalty to Ethan and my growing frustration. It's nothing, really. He's just adjusting to his new role. Richard's expression turned serious. Adjusting or letting it go to his head? Before I could respond, Ethan's voice rang out from the office. Anna, where are those files? I grabbed the folder from my desk and gave Richard an apologetic look. Duty calls. Back in Ethan's office. He barely glanced up as I entered. Finally, just leave them there and close the door on your way out. Ethan, I said, summoning all my courage, the team really needs you at this meeting. They've worked hard on. He slammed his hand on the desk. For God's sake, Anna, I'm the president now. I decide what's important, not you or anyone else. Got it? I flinched, stunned by his outburst. I'm just trying to help. Ethan, this company means everything to your father. And my father isn't in charge anymore. Ethan interrupted, his tone icy. I am, and if you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be here either. His words felt like a slap. I looked at him, searching for any trace of the man I'd fallen in love with. But all I saw was a stranger, lost in power and pride. Fine, I whispered. I said quietly, I'll cancel the meeting. As I turned to leave, Ethan's phone buzzed. He answered it, and his voice changed instantly to a smooth, charming tone. Diana, darling, yes, I can't wait for our business lunch. See you soon, he said. My hand froze on the door handle. Diana? I didn't know the name, but the way he said it sent a chill down my spine. I glanced back and saw a sly smile on his face before he noticed me looking. What? He snapped. Don't you have work to do? I nodded without saying a word and quickly left his office. My mind spinning. Outside, our team's disappointed faces met me as I announced the meeting was cancelled. But their frustration was nothing compared to the worry growing in my chest. Who is Diana? And what kind of business lunch made my husband smile like that? As I sat down at my desk, I realized with a sinking feeling that both my marriage and the company might be facing a storm we weren't ready for. The next morning, I arrived early, determined to fix what I could from yesterday. As I walked through the office, I could feel the tension in the air. Conversation stopped as I passed, replaced by forced smiles and awkward nods. Morning, Anna. Chloe, our lead designer, called out. Any news on rescheduling the meeting? I hesitated, torn between being honest and being careful with my words. I'm working on it, Chloe. Ethan's still adjusting to his new role. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Adjusting? Is that what we're calling it now? Before I could respond, Ethan's voice boomed from his office. Anna, my office now. I hurried to his door, bracing myself. He was pacing, his frustration clear. "What the hell is this?" he asked, shoving a stack of papers at me. I looked at the top sheet and felt my heart drop. It was a formal complaint from the design team, mentioning Ethan's absence from key meetings and delays in project approvals. "Ethan, they're just frustrated. If we could set up a meeting to talk about their concerns." "Their concerns?" he interrupted, scoffing. "I'm running a business, not a daycare. If they can't handle the pressure, they can leave." "But Ethan, these are your father's most trusted employees. They've been with the company for years." His eyes flashed with anger. "My father isn't in charge anymore. I am, and I won't let a bunch of whiny designers question my authority." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Ethan, please, this doesn't feel like you. What's really going on?" For a brief moment, I thought I saw the old Ethan, the one who was vulnerable, uncertain, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Nothing's wrong," he snapped. "Just do your job and keep them in line. That's what I'm paying you for, isn't it?" His words stung deeper than he probably realized. I wasn't just an employee. I thought I was his partner, his wife. But now I wasn't so sure. Just as I turned to leave, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and a sly grin spread across his face. "I'm heading out for lunch. Hold my calls," he said, already moving toward the door. "But Ethan, we have the client meeting at 2. I reminded him. "Reschedule it," he replied, already halfway out. I watched him go, feeling a tightening in my chest. This wasn't just about work anymore. Something was definitely wrong. Back at my desk, I dove into damage control, fielding upset clients and calming frustrated employees. By the afternoon, I was drained and on edge. A soft knock on my cubicle made me jump. I looked up to see Richard, his face filled with concern. "Anna, dear, got a minute?" I nodded, grateful for the moment of respite. Richard sat down across from me, his expression kind but serious. "I've been hearing things," he said gently, "about Ethan, about how he's running things." I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Richard had poured his life into this company, trusting Ethan to lead it. How could I tell him that everything seemed to be falling apart? "Richard, I began, but he raised a hand to stop me. "You don't have to protect him, Anna, not for me. I've known something was wrong for a while. I hoped he'd grow into the role." Tears welled up in my eyes. "I don't know what to do," I whispered. "He won't listen to me. He's pushing everyone away." Richard reached across the desk, taking my hand in his. "We'll figure this out, Anna, together. This company, this family, it means everything to me. I won't let Ethan destroy it." Just then, Ethan's voice rang out through the office. "Where the hell is everyone? Don't we have work to do?" Richard and I exchanged a knowing glance. The storm wasn't over. I stood up, steeling myself for whatever mess Ethan had made this time. Richard's words, "together," echoed in my mind. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. But as I rounded the corner, I saw Ethan standing there, his tie askew and a smudge of lipstick on his collar. The hope that had sparked inside me vanished. The man I loved was slipping away, and I felt helpless to stop it. Later that evening, I trudged up the driveway, worn out from another day of trying to hold everything together at work. All I wanted was a hot bath and a glass of wine. But as I reached for my keys, the front door swung open. A striking blonde woman stepped out, her lipstick slightly smeared, and her blouse unbuttoned in a way that seemed careless. She froze when she saw me, her eyes widening for a brief second before she quickly recovered. "Oh, you must be Anna," she said smoothly. "I'm Diana, Ethan's consultant." My world spun. Diana, the name from Ethan's phone call, the lipstick on his collar, it all came together with painful clarity. "Consultant?" I managed to speak, my voice barely above a whisper. Diana's lips curled into a sly smile. "Oh, yes. Ethan and I have been working very closely together. He's quite the visionary, you know." Before I could respond, Ethan appeared in the doorway, his face pale. "Anna, you're home early," he stammered. I searched his face for any sign of guilt or remorse, but all I saw was panic and calculation. "Diana was just leaving," he said quickly. guiding her toward her car. They exchanged a knowing glance before she drove off, leaving me alone with a man I suddenly felt I didn't know at all. I brushed past Ethan and went inside, my mind racing. He followed, already trying to explain himself. Anna, it's not what you think. Diana's just helping with some new projects. We were brainstorming ideas. I turned to him, my voice rising. Don't lie to me, Ethan, not now. He hesitated, his confidence crumbling. I didn't mean for this to happen. It just did. It just happened, I said, my voice shaking. Like you just happen to ignore your responsibilities at work? Like you just happen to treat our employees, our friends, like they don't matter? Ethan's face hardened. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Dad left me with shoes I can't fill. I'm doing the best I can. By having an affair? By dragging the company down? I shot back. He stopped. Frustration etched on his face. Look, things got complicated, but I can fix this. We can fix this. I let out a bitter laugh. We? There's no we anymore. Ethan, you made sure of that. As I said it, I realized it was true. Whatever we had, our marriage, our partnership, was gone, shattered by his betrayal and my own blind trust. Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, looking torn. It's Diana, isn't it? I said quietly. He didn't deny it. Anna, please, let me explain. But I was done listening. Done making excuses for him. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? Ethan called after me. Away from you, I replied. I need to think. As I drove through the dark streets, tears blurred my vision. How had it come to this? The man I loved, the life we built, it was all crumbling around me. My phone rang, and Richard's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Anna, are you all right? You left the office so quickly, he said, his voice full of concern. Richard's kindness broke through the walls I had built around myself. And before I knew it, everything poured out. Ethan's affair, the state of the company, the shattered pieces of my heart. Richard listened quietly, his expression full of concern. When I finished, he spoke softly. Oh, Anna, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I should never have put so much pressure on Ethan. It's not your fault, I reassured him. Ethan made his own choices. Maybe, Richard sighed, but now we have to make ours. Come to my house. We'll figure this out together. As I drove toward Richard's neighborhood, a strange sense of calm washed over me. Ethan's betrayal was no longer a secret. But I wasn't alone anymore. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of strength returning. Whatever was coming, I would face it head on. No more excuses. No more blind loyalty. It was time to stand up for myself, and for the company that had become my second home. The next morning, I entered the office with my head held high, ignoring the whispers and curious glances. My conversation with Richard the night before had given me new determination. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I turned the corner. There, in the middle of the office, stood Ethan with his arm around Diana's waist. She was dressed in a pencil skirt and blouse, clothes I might have worn just a few months ago. Everyone, Ethan announced, his voice strong and commanding. I'd like you to meet Diana. She'll be joining our team as a special consultant. My heart pounded as I locked eyes with Ethan. His gaze dared me to speak. Diana smirked, clearly enjoying her position beside him, while the rest of the office fell silent. Chloe, our lead designer, was the first to speak. But Mr. Perry, we already have a full team. And Anna will be helping Diana get settled. Ethan interrupted smoothly. Won't you, dears? All eyes turned to me. I could feel their pity and curiosity. But I took a deep breath and forced a smile, even though it felt more like a grimace. Of course, I said, my voice steady. Welcome aboard, Diana. The next few hours were a blur of forced smiles and barely concealed tension. I retreated to my office, trying to focus on work. But my mind kept returning to Ethan's betrayal. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Richard, his face full of concern. Anna, I just heard. Are you all right? I shook my head, fighting back tears. I don't know how much more I can take. Richard, It's like Ethan is trying to hurt me in every way possible. Richard's expression turned grim. This ends now. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Ethan's gone too far. Before I could respond, the door swung open, and Ethan stormed in, his face red with anger. What do you think you're doing? Dad, he snarled. This is my company now. You can't just barge in here and... Enough. Richard's voice was firm, stopping Ethan mid-sentence. You've made a joke of everything I worked so hard to build. It's time you face the consequences. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Consequences? I'm just getting started. He reached into his jacket, pulled out an envelope, and tossed it onto my desk. Consider this my first official act as president. With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. Inside were divorce papers, already signed by Ethan. He looked at me coldly. You're fired, I whispered, feeling disbelief and hurt wash over me. Ethan's laugh was cold. Firing you? Oh, no, Anna, I'm setting you free from this job. From this marriage. From everything. I looked down at the papers. My whole world crumbling around me. All those years. All our dreams. Reduced to a few sheets of legal words. Ethan, please, Richard said, trying to calm him down. Think about what you're doing. Anna has been the backbone of this company. Without her, we'll finally move forward. Ethan snapped. Face it, Dad, your way is outdated. Diana and I have big plans for the future. As they argued, a strange calm settled over me. I looked at the divorce papers. Then up at Ethan, this stranger wearing my husband's face. At that moment, I made a decision. I'll sign, I said quietly, cutting through their heated exchange. Both men turned to me in shock. Ethan was the first to recover. A smug smile crossing his face. I knew you'd see reason. Anna, it's really for the best. I met his gaze steadily. You're right, Ethan, it is for the best. But not for the reasons you think. I signed the papers, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Ethan might have thrown away our marriage. But I was done being a victim. I quit, I announced, standing up, effective immediately. Ethan's smirk faded. What? You can't just. I can. And I am, I said firmly. Good luck running this company without me. Ethan, you're going to need it. As I walked out of the office, my head held high, I heard Richard call after me. Anna, wait. I stopped and turned back. Richard's eyes held a mix of pride and determination. I have a proposition for you, he said, one that might just save this company and give you the fresh start you deserve. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it on my own terms. Later, I sat across from Richard in his cozy home office, holding a warm mug of tea. The past few days swirled through my mind like a storm. Anna, Richard began, his voice calm yet firm. I want you to come work for my nonprofit architectural trust. We need someone with your skills and integrity. I blinked, surprised. But Richard, what about the company? What about Ethan? Ethan made his choice, Richard said, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Now it's time for you to make yours. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from Chloe, SOS. Everything's falling apart here. Ethan and Diana are running the place into the ground. We need you, Anna. My heart clenched. Despite everything, I still cared deeply about the company and the people I'd worked alongside for so many years. I need some time to think, I told Richard. He nodded, his expression understanding. Of course, but don't take too long. We both know Ethan won't waste any time tearing down what we've built. The next morning, I took a deep breath and walked into the office one last time to clear out my desk. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and conversations stopped as I passed. While I packed my things, Chloe appeared at my door, her face filled with concern. Anna, thank God you're here. It's a mess. Ethan's canceled 4 big projects. And Diana's reassigning teams without caring about their skills. Clients are furious. I don't work here anymore. Chloe, I said, my voice tight. There's nothing I can do. Chloe's eyes went wide. You're leaving? But what about us? What about the company? Before I could respond, Ethan's voice boomed from the hallway. Anna, what are you doing here? He marched into my office. Diana right behind him. her expression smug. Just grabbing my things, I replied calmly, refusing to let him intimidate me. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Good. The sooner you're gone, the better. Diana can more than handle your duties. I couldn't help but laugh. Can she? Is that why clients are threatening to leave and the staff is in chaos? Diana stepped forward, her perfectly manicured nails digging into Ethan's arm. I'm doing an excellent job. Ethan says I'm a natural. I'm sure he does, I replied coolly, but running a successful architectural firm takes more than just being a natural. Ethan's face turned red with anger. Enough. Get out. Anna, you're not welcome here. As I picked up my box of belongings, a stir in the hallway caught my attention. Richard strode in, flanked by 3 board members. What's going on? Ethan demanded. Richard's voice was steady. Emergency board meeting. Ethan, your recent decisions have put this company in danger. And we're here to discuss your future as president. Ethan's confidence faltered. You can't do this. I'm in charge now. We'll see about that, one of the board members said, his tone serious. As they made their way toward the conference room, Richard glanced back at me. Anna, we could use your insights in this meeting. If you're willing. I hesitated, torn between walking away from the mess and the loyalty I felt for the company I'd helped build. Ethan sneered. She doesn't work here anymore. Dad, she has no say. Something snapped in me. I set down my box and stood tall. Actually, I think I will stay for this meeting. Seems I'm the only one who knows how this company truly runs. Diana gasped, and Ethan stammered, but Richard smiled with pride. As we entered the conference room, I felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting the legacy Richard had built and the livelihoods of everyone who worked here. Whatever came next, I was ready to fight. Not for Ethan, not for our broken marriage, but for the company and the people I knew. It was time to show everyone, especially Ethan, what I could really do. The boardroom was tense as I laid out the hard truth about the company's situation. Spreadsheets and reports filled the table, each one showing how bad things had gotten under Ethan's leadership. In the past month alone, we've lost 3 major clients. I explained, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was racing. Our reputation in the industry is sinking, and staff morale is at its lowest. Ethan's face turned red with anger and disbelief. This is ridiculous. We're doing fine. Diana and I have been working on new strategies that will. That will what? Ethan? Richard cut in, his tone sharp. Run us further into the ground? The numbers don't lie. I watched as the board members exchanged worried looks. This was the moment, the one that would decide the company's future. Diana, who had insisted on being there, spoke up. But Ethan's been working so hard. He's been at the office late every night, coming up with new ideas. I couldn't hold back a scoff. Is that what you call it? Because from where I stand, all I see is a company in trouble and a president who cares more about his personal life than his responsibilities. Ethan's eyes flashed with anger. You don't know what you're talking about. Anna, you're just bitter because I moved on. Moved on? I laughed bitterly. You destroyed our marriage. And now you're destroying this company. That's not moving on. Ethan, that's burning everything down. Mr. Harrison, the oldest board member, cleared his throat. I think we've heard enough. It's clear that something drastic needs to be done to save this company. Ethan's face went pale. What are you saying? I'm saying, Mr. Harrison replied, that we need to think about new leadership. Effective immediately. The room broke into chaos. Ethan started shouting. Diana began crying, and the board members argued with each other. Through it all, I sat quietly, feeling strangely calm. Then Ethan turned to me, desperation in his eyes. Anna, please, he said, you have to help me. Tell them I can fix this. Tell them we can work together again. Like before. I looked at him, the man who used to be my partner in everything. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of the old Ethan, scared, vulnerable, and asking for help. But then Diana's hand clutched his arm possessively. And reality came back to me. I'm sorry, Ethan, I said gently, but you made your choice. And now you have to live with it. Richard stood, his voice cutting through the rising tension. I move that we vote on Ethan's continued leadership of this company. All in favor of removing Ethan from his position as president? Raise your hand. Time seemed to stretch as hands slowly rose around the table. 1, 2, 3, an unmistakable majority. Ethan's face went pale as he realized what was happening. This isn't fair, Diana cried out, her voice shaking with anger. You can't do this to us. But the decision was made. Ethan was out, and the company, at least for now, was safe. As the meeting adjourned, Richard pulled me aside. Anna, we need you. The company needs you. Will you come back and help us rebuild? I hesitated, torn between the desire to help and the pull for a fresh start. Before I could respond, Ethan approached, his eyes red and filled with desperation. Anna, please, he pleaded, don't let them do this. You know me better than anyone. You know I can fix this if you just give me one more chance. I looked from Ethan to Richard, feeling the weight of their hopes pressing down on me. The future of the company, and my own, hung in the balance. I realized that this wasn't just about saving a business. It was about standing up for myself, for my worth, and for everything I'd worked so hard for. Taking a deep breath, I made my decision. Whatever happened next, it would change everything. Standing at the podium, I faced the room full of expectant faces. The company-wide meeting had been called to address the recent chaos. And as the new interim CEO, it was up to me to guide us forward. As many of you know, I began, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. The past few weeks have been challenging for our company. But today marks a new beginning. From the corner of my eye, I saw Ethan slip into the back of the room, looking weary. Diana was nowhere in sight. We've lost clients. And yes, we've faced setbacks. I continued, but the heart of this company, the talent, dedication, and vision that each of you brings, that hasn't changed. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. I went on, explaining our plans to regain client trust and stabilize our finances. As I spoke, I could see hope beginning to flicker back in my colleagues' eyes. Suddenly, Ethan's voice rang out, cutting through the air like a knife. This is all lies. Heads turned as he marched down the aisle. Anna is trying to steal my company. She planned this whole thing to push me out. Gasps and whispers spread through the room. I gripped the podium, forcing myself to remain calm. Ethan, this isn't the time or place. I said quietly. It's exactly the time, he shouted, his face flushed with rage. You turned my own father against me. You manipulated the board. That's enough. Richard's voice rang out from the side of the stage. He walked up, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. Ethan, you did this to yourself. Your actions, your decisions, they're what brought us to this point. Ethan looked between us, desperation on his face. Dad, please, you can't let her do this. It's our family legacy. Richard's expression softened just a bit. Son, a legacy isn't just about the name on a building. It's about integrity, hard work, and doing right by our employees and clients. Anna understands that. It's time you did too. A heavy silence fell over the room. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, waiting to see how this family drama would end. Ethan's shoulders slumped, and he looked drained, as if the fight had left him. So that's it? I'm just out? He asked. I stepped away from the podium and approached him carefully. It doesn't have to be the end. Ethan, there's still a place for you here, if you're willing to work for it. For a brief moment, I saw a glimpse of the man I once loved, vulnerable, unsure, but then his face hardened. I don't need your pity, Anna, or yours. Dad, I'll start my own firm. Just watch. I'll build something even bigger, even better. With that, he turned and walked out, leaving a stunned silence behind him. I returned to the podium, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes on me. This was a moment that would shape not just my role but the future of the company. I know that was hard to see. I began, my voice a little unsteady. But it shows why we're here today. This company isn't about one person's ego or ambition. It's about all of us working together to create something great. I paused, looking out at my colleagues. Some looked uncertain, some hopeful, all waiting for a sense of direction. I can't promise this will be easy. We have a long road ahead. But I can promise that every choice I make will be for the good of this company and for the people who make it what it is. That's all of you. As I went on to outline our plan, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The hardest part was over. Ethan was gone, and his last attempt to challenge me had failed. Now I finally had the chance to lead on my own terms. But when I caught Richard's eye, I saw a hint of concern. And I knew that while this chapter was closing, a new one was just beginning. The real test of my leadership and our company's strength was still ahead. 5 months later, I stood at the window of my new office, looking out over the city. The view felt different now. It wasn't just because I was in the building for Richard's nonprofit trust, but because I saw things with fresh eyes. A knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Come in," I called. Chloe entered, her face glowing. "Anna, you won't believe it. We got the Henderson Project." I couldn't help but smile. The Henderson Project was exactly the kind of responsible, creative design I'd always wanted to do. "That's amazing, Chloe. The team must be thrilled." "They are," she nodded, and then hesitated. "And there's something else you should know." I raised an eyebrow. "Waiting." Chloe took a deep breath. "Ethan's company, it's officially bankrupt. They filed for Chapter 12 this morning." The news hit me like a wave. Despite everything, part of me had hoped Ethan would find his way. "And Ethan?" I asked quietly. "No one's seen him in days." Chloe nodded. "But Diana," she paused. "She came by earlier, looking for a job. Said Ethan left her with nothing." I sank into my chair, absorbing it all. The Ethan I had once loved and built a life with was truly gone. In his place was a sobering reminder of how quickly success could turn to ruin when built on a shaky foundation. As if sensing I needed him, Richard appeared in the doorway. "I heard the news," he said softly. "How are you holding up?" I managed a small smile. "I'm okay. It's just a lot to process." Richard nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of pride and sadness. "You've done incredible things here, Anna. This new wing of the trust. The projects you're leading, you're changing lives." "We're changing lives," I corrected him. "I couldn't have done this without your support." He brushed off my gratitude. "This was all you, Anna. You took something painful and turned it into something beautiful. That's a rare gift." As Richard and Chloe left, I was left alone with my thoughts. I thought about Ethan, the life we'd shared, and the dreams we once had. I thought about Diana, and how her pursuit of status and wealth had left her hollow. But mostly, I thought about myself, the woman I had been at the start of all this. Fearful of speaking up, desperate to please, she seemed like a stranger now. My phone buzzed, pulling me out of my thoughts. A text from an unknown number. "It's Ethan. Can we talk?" My heart raced as I stared at the screen. 5 months ago, I would have eagerly responded. Now, I took a deep breath and typed back, "I'm sorry, Ethan, but I've moved on. I hope you find peace." As I pressed send, I felt the last ties to my old life snap. The future stretched out before me, full of possibility and promise. A knock at my door brought me back to the present. It was my team, eager to start brainstorming for the Henderson Project. "Come on in," I said, smiling. "Let's create something amazing." As we gathered around the conference table, ideas flowed freely, and I felt a profound sense of gratitude. This was where I belonged, not defined by my past or anyone else's expectations, but standing firm on my own, surrounded by people who respected and valued me. The journey had been hard, but it had led me here, to a place of strength, purpose, and self-discovery. Looking around at the bright, eager faces of my team, I knew the best was yet to come. I picked up a marker and said, "Let's imagine the future together." As we began sketching out our ideas, I realized that this moment, this work, this life I had rebuilt from the broken pieces of my old one, was my true happy ending. It wasn't a fairy tale, but something far better, a fresh start, created with my own hands and heart. The road ahead might not always be easy, but I was ready for whatever challenges came my way. I finally understood that my worth didn't depend on anyone else's actions or opinions. It came from within, from the strength and resilience I had discovered in myself. And that, I realized, was the greatest victory of all.